Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Dave Livingston, president of Lewis University, and I'm here with Dr. Christopher Sindt, our provost, with another edition of Conversations from Stritch. It's great to be back. We took last week off, and today I'm really looking forward to the conversation today because we have some guests who I know very well. Dr. Kristi Kelly and Dr. Schackmuth. We'll introduce them more fully later. We're going to talk about kind of how, as an overall community, we're really trying to pay attention and listen to different aspects of the needs of the community as we're going through a really incredibly tumultuous time, both in the broader society and on our campus as we try to pay attention and react thoughtfully to all that's happening, certainly with COVID, but on many other levels, institutional racism and policing and issues about international students and immigration. There's just many things that are impacting our community and different aspects of our community in different ways. So we're going to spend some time today doing that. I just wanted to say a few comments at the beginning. Chris is going to talk a little bit more in depth about some of the things that are going on campus. But I wanted everybody to hear once again from me our commitment to a balanced approach that focuses really significantly on the health and safety of our entire community, students, staff, and faculty. And also the emphasis of our commitment on educational excellence. And what we're doing as a community is there's incredible groups of people, faculty and staff, that are working on all aspects of this. But I just want all of the listeners, families, students, our grad students, our new first-year students that are coming onto campus, that we will keep reviewing this and that we're listening to what's going on in the broader world. So I also want you to hear from me that we are aware that there are spikes going on around the country. The Illinois is doing better than many states, but certainly we just saw Mayor Lightfoot impose that bars and taverns as of tomorrow that just serve alcohol will not be able to have indoor service. And so there is this sense of a concern over the coronavirus and the cases, and we're aware of that. We're also aware that the number of unemployment claims went up for the first time since March today. That's a concern, and again, a concern that we have for our families. And we'll be talking about this a little bit later in the presentation. But we have been aware of that. We've reached out to donors and employees of Lewis, friends of Lewis, and have raised some significant resources to help family members and students to afford a Lewis education this year. And so we've given out grants to over 500 students for those families who have lost a job due to COVID. And so, again, there's so much going on, and I know all of you out there are, struggling to keep up with the changes that are happening in society. I want you to know that that Dr. Sindt and so many of the professionals on our team across the entire campus are really focused on your health and safety as you return to Lewis now in 5 weeks. So on that note, maybe Chris, I can turn it over to you and you can talk a little bit more about what has been going on behind the scenes in all these meetings and what do we know. And then, of course, we can transition into the broader sense of how we're reacting to the community and listening to the community.
Yes, that sounds great. Thanks. And hello, everyone. It's great to be here with you. It's great to be on campus after 2 weeks. It's beautiful. And it's really wonderful to see the preparations for the fall taking place as we walk around the campus and walked over here from our offices. I do want to. It has been 2 weeks, and there's, as President Livingston said, there's a huge amount of activity going on in preparation for the fall. So I do want to make a few remarks about that before introducing Kristi and Kurt to our conversation. We are actively planning for the fall, continuing to make adjustments as new guidance comes in. And we continue to ask for your patience as plans shift, sometimes in very subtle ways and sometimes in more substantial ways. Just a very clear reminder, because I know we are getting some questions about what we're doing in the fall. So we plan to deliver the fall schedule with a mixture of in-person, online, and blended course deliveries. We have a set of 7 work groups under the umbrella of our campus continuity task force that are each working in different aspects of campus preparation. And we also have many, many units on campus, and I hesitate to name them because everyone's working on this, but facilities, technology, our faculty center, to name a few, and registrar's office have been doing incredible work in preparation for the fall, but I know that I could just go on and on and on with that list. Faculty and departments, especially along with deans, have done incredible work not only in preparing for instruction, but also working through the extraordinary nuances of preparing the schedule for the fall. And I will come back to that in a minute. We're also closely monitoring, as President Livingston said, the guidance from the CDC, from the Illinois Department of Public Health, the Illinois Board of Higher Education, and Restore Illinois as we track the pandemic nationally and locally. We're especially monitoring the metrics of the Restore Illinois uses to make shifts in its plan, such as positivity rates and hospital admissions. The metrics are now localized to smaller regions, and our region at Lewis includes Will and Kankakee counties. And the outcomes so far in our region, and really in all of northern Illinois, have not indicated concern about returning to phase 3. But that said, things can change quickly, and we're very much preparing for quick turnarounds or transitions if they do occur, and that would typically look like a return to phase 3. And again, we're not seeing indications for that yet, but if it does happen, we are prepared for that to happen. So back to planning for the fall. The schedule is complete, or as complete as our schedule is on July 23rd in a typical year, preparing for the fall semester. As I said, many, many people have been working hard on that. The faculty should hear from their deans today or tomorrow with some clarifications about the schedule. Students, you can check your course information on MyLewis to see if there are any changes to your class location, day, or time for the fall semester. You'll also be receiving a much more detailed support probably on Monday that helps to read and interpret the way the schedule is described on the MyLewis page. In the meantime, please visit the Return to Campus website, especially the section called Facts Students Should Know About Fall Classes. That part of the website defines terms like what do we mean when the schedule says blended, or what do we mean, what does it say, what does it mean, how do we read what day of the week my class is actually on campus versus online, and so on. So please refer to that now, but you will be getting a lot more detailed help around interpreting that schedule. And then the last thing I want to mention is that we've received a couple questions before, just earlier this week that I can quickly answer. One was about whether we will have shuttle bus service to things like the stores and things in the fall, like as we typically do for residential students, and the answer to that is yes. We will be listening to we'll do all the precautions that we need to do to ensure safety, but also be listening to students about what their needs are in terms of what they want to get off campus to go do and see and get. And then we had a question about move-in times. If you go to the residence life part of the website, there is a form that students need to use to sign up for move-in day. And we can maybe send out another reminder email about that to our residential students so that they can see if they have signed up or if they need to sign up and what the available slots are for those move-in times. And just a reminder, we are planning a few days to do move-in so that we can have that more spaced out and people have more guarantee of physical distancing during that kind of busy move-in time into the rooms. One other question we had about housing was about notifications that people have been receiving around housing and singles and doubles and so on. And as you can imagine, it's a very complex situation in a normal year in terms of students making requests. Many of our students made requests for housing way back in May and April, and when Director of Residence Life Fred Gandy was with us a few weeks ago, he mentioned that there's sort of a hierarchy for living in the suites and assigning of rooms around class, what class you're in, and one of those typical ones is that all athletes often live together in community and so on. And so sometimes the result in the housing might be different than what people wanted or surprising in one way. And I just want to reiterate that we, for new students, we are guaranteeing single rooms. And so if somebody was assigned a double room, it was likely because of some other factor that goes into the way we manage it. And they should just contact Residence Life, and we can work that out on an case-by-case basis.
So before we transition, and do you have...
No, I think that's it for my laundry list.
Can I just ask you a couple, we'll ask you one question and make a comment. So you were talking about the zones. I think up until, over the last 2 weeks, this zone changed. It used to be 4 zones, and we were in the kind of Chicago metro area, as was Oak Brook. So now Oak Brook is in a different zone than we are. Albuquerque is also in a different part of the country. So I just want to note to our community that we now will be paying attention to 3 different, I guess what I would say, kind of government, that is, different parts of Illinois can move into phase 3 without the whole state moving into phase 3. And Romeoville campus is in a different zone than the Oak Brook campus. And so we could end up in a situation where...
And just to be super clear, a different zone than Chicago.
Exactly. And now, now they're taking each of the 6 collar counties are divided into 3 different zones. And then, of course, Albuquerque, New Mexico could have a different situation than what happened in Romeoville and Oak Brook. And we will make sure we communicate with both the faculty, staff, and students that are in those locations about any changes to what the provost just mentioned in terms of how we're doing with classes and what's going on. So I just want to make sure that that was clear to everyone. The second thing I guess I'd like to just to clarify, because again, not everybody's always on the same things or getting on the websites, because you mentioned, this is where to go to look and see what it means that your class is meeting on this day. Could you just be more specific? Because I think I understand it, but I'm not sure all of our students understand that if they're in this hybrid blended model, they're going to meet 1 day a week in a face-to-face experience. That's the norm. I mean, there might be some exceptions, but they're going to meet in a 1 day a week. And what you were saying earlier is they may need to look at which day of the week. So there's a guidance in there about if I have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, does it meet on Wednesday or does it meet on Monday in face-to-face, and then the other days are in a online kind of virtual format. So is that accurate?
Yeah, and I was avoiding you asking that question like that because the answer is super complicated and specific.
I know.
Because what really the student schedules will say something like your class meets Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9 to 10. The Monday class would be online from 9 to 10.
Right.
The Wednesday class, and maybe that would be true for Friday, the Wednesday class will be meeting in person from 9 to 10. And the schedule will indicate that, but everyone may not be super familiar with the way it's described in the schedule or what the words are that describe that. And then another class might be fully online, another class might be fully in person, another you know, and so on. So that's.
So, I mean, maybe what I wanted to point out to everybody is, and you said it, but it is very complicated, and we want to acknowledge that. For families, for parents, for students, you might look at this initially and say, this is confusing. The website is designed to help walk you through that step by step and say, this is what this means and this is what this means. But the general thing that you're trying to figure out is whether your class is fully online or it has some meeting face-to-face, and then there's a clarity in there about which days a week would be in which format. So anyway, we'll continue to try to refine that. If you have questions as a student or a parent, you can first check the website, but then if you want to reach out to the registrar's office or to somebody at the university, we can help you to understand the scheduling.
And I didn't really say today something we've mentioned a few times, which is that we've made every effort along the way to maintain the same schedule for people. The most, especially in terms of times and days of the week and things like that. It hasn't been possible in every case, and classes have been split because of size and space and things like that. But roughly the schedule should be similar in terms of people planning their, people who had registered, weeks and weeks ago. The basic construction of the schedule should be similar for almost everyone.
And then quickly before we go to Dr. Kelly and Dr. Schackmuth, there's a question that came in from a student athlete. Any update? We did have Dr. Planek on here a couple weeks ago. We talked about athletics, and I'm sure if you're a student athlete, you have been paying attention. There's been a lot of shifting around the country. There have been conferences who have postponed athletics in D2 and in D3. There's been things going on the D1 level. What I can tell you is there's been no final decision in the GLVC yet. There are meetings. I've been in several meetings this week, so there are conversations going on kind of as we speak. And my sense is that there will be an announcement I would guess by Tuesday at the latest next week. Could be sooner than that, but I would say at the latest next Tuesday, about where the GLVC is going in terms of athletic competition for sports that are scheduled for fall competition. And we just don't know any more than that right now, but it is a very fluid situation, and the decisions are going to be made in the next 3 or 4 days. Okay, so now do we want to switch to our guests? So you can go ahead and introduce them.
So I'm very pleased to introduce our two guests today, Dr. Kristi Kelly, our Chief Diversity Officer, and Dr. Kurt Schackmuth, Vice President for Mission and Associate Provost for Student Success. Hello, Kurt and Kristi. We can see you.
Good morning.
Great to be with you. Nice to see you. So, as President Livingston said, our focus today for the rest of the time we have together is, I mentioned earlier that we have a campus continuity task force that encompasses our transition into the new academic year. The focus today is one thing we've been calling it is community continuity, that kind of captures our continuance of our commitment to the sanctified zone and our continuance to of our mission and traditions as we move into the fall. So the kind of question that I know that we've all been holding and that Kristi and Kurt are very much thinking about all the time is how do the challenges posed that President Livingston mentioned at the beginning in our external communities, in our lives, as well as in our delivery of our educational experience on the campus, how do we maintain our understanding of and our commitment to mission, diversity, equity, and inclusion as we move into some of these new formats. And that's really what we wanted to focus on today. So I will ask John if you could put up the slide. We're going to just the four of us are going to talk through a few things that are going on campus, and then we're just going to ask Kurt and Kristi questions about the work that they're doing after that. So John, if we could see the the slide that we prepared. We'll start with that. So the first thing I'm just going to say as a preliminary comment is what we're calling on the slide culturally relevant decision making. And we just want to sort of start this conversation by saying that, you know, the two of us who are here in this room, as well as Kurt and Kristi, and the rest of our leadership team, as well as the other leaders on campus, our deans and so on, are making many decisions, many more than typical through this series of different events that are happening, and we are always reminding ourselves and each other that how does each decision that we're making impact economically vulnerable students, and this includes, you know, a deeper consideration of mental health, those who consider Lewis their primary home, and whether decisions will support transitionally marginalized populations or unintentionally exacerbate problems for our marginalized communities, primarily people of color, but also economically disadvantaged students. So a lot of what we're kind of talking about today are ways that we've decided to approach and support students who are struggling, as President Livingston mentioned at the beginning, to be able to engage fully in the academic enterprise that we have to offer. So I'll just start with that, and I think I'll ask Kurt to talk next about the Flyer to Flyer outreach program.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. You know, when the pandemic struck us as a community, I think it could have easily paralyzed us as a university community, but instead it really served as a catalyst, and the mission really served as the basis for how we responded. And so one of the very first initiatives that we launched back in March was the Flyer to Flyer outreach program. And this was a pretty ambitious goal of reaching out to over 3,300 undergraduate students via text, voice, or email. And the goal was to simply check in on them, see how they're doing, learn a little bit about the situations that they're experiencing at home, make sure that they're doing okay in their classes, and to learn a little bit about how we can help them, how we can support them in new ways. And so what was really fabulous is that there were over 80 Lewis faculty and staff members who, over the course of about a 5 or 6 week period, reached out to over 3,000 students, checked in on them, at the very least, left voicemails to let them know that we were thinking about them, and in many cases, solved problems, shared resources, and learned a little bit more about their situation so that we could reach out and help as much as possible. So that was a really ambitious goal, but it was extremely successful, and I think it's a real great manifestation of our mission in action.
Yeah, that's great, Kurt. Thank you for your role. I know there were several kind of people, for lack of a better word, just kind of trying to manage the 3,300 names and the 80, people who were working on this. But I'm just so grateful to you and everybody else involved in this program. And then, the next piece on the slide really comes directly out of that, because some of the things that we started hearing from students were loss of jobs. My mom lost her job, my dad lost his job, both my parents lost their jobs, their hours have been cut, they've been furloughed. So as a leadership team, we started asking the question, how can we respond well to this? How can we use our mission to respond to this? And so we created the COVID-19 Emergency Fund, and working with people in enrollment, in admissions, and in advancement, we went to our employees and our donors and our alumni and many businesses and explained some of the stories that we'd heard. And then we were able to raise enough money that we've been able to offer over 500 of our students a one-time grant to allow them to supplement their traditional financial aid in order for them to afford to be able to return to Lewis this fall. It was a way for us to kind of hear that we certainly hope that the economy will recover, but in the moment, many families face a one-time hit to their income. And so I'm just, I want to, say, one, how grateful I am to all the donors to this fund. I hope that all those students who are receiving the grants, that they've been able to then cobble together with this grant the ability to register for classes and return this fall. And again, just grateful to you, Kurt, as well as everybody else who made phone calls or sent emails or texts to people to reach out and hear how our community is doing.
And there's still time to make requests.
There's still time to make requests. We do ask, there's an application for these funds where people are expected to talk about, that their family did lose a job, a member of their family lost a job. We've had graduate students who have lost their own jobs. They're working full-time and going to graduate school part-time. So we're trying to, part of what I guess I would say the focus of this discussion today is we're trying to do deep listening, right? We're trying to listen to our community and hear their needs and then match our mission commitments to meeting the needs of our community. And this is just one example of that. So, John, I don't know if you want to put the slide back up because we're going to continue down those bullet points. We've now gotten through 2 of them, but really some great things going on.
One of the initiatives that we were able to continue through the spring semester and into the summer is our University Ministry Food Pantry. So there are students who live on campus year-round for a variety of different reasons, and it was important that we continue this service to them, to have access to food that they might need during a time in the summer when there are more challenges in terms of providing services on campus. And so we have a great LV scholar in University Ministry who staffs and stocks the food pantry, so we're really grateful for everything that she does, and that's one of those initiatives we were able to continue. And then another service that has been really vital in this whole transition to remote learning has been the laptop loan program that we have established in our library. And so we're in the process of expanding this now. We learned in our Flyer to Flower outreach program that some students needed laptops at home, and they needed access to this kind of equipment that they normally would use right here on campus. And so we're able to make our laptop loan program in the library accessible to them, and we've got plans now to expand it and build up the collection of laptops as we move into the fall semester, and that's due in part to those people who have contributed to our emergency fund. We also are going to make hotspots available as well as we go into the fall semester. So these are part of a portfolio of services that we want to offer our students as we move into the fall semester and kind of face some uncertainty about how things will unfold over the course of the next couple of months.
Kristi, we are...
Sure. Good morning, all. In addition to what Kurt has mentioned and Chris and Dave have mentioned, our counseling services has really been instrumental in the shift to telehealth services that have been provided to our student population. In particular, Jill, who serves as the director in that area, and her team have done a wonderful job in providing services to nearly 600 individuals by way of video conferencing and or phone calls. And in terms of who's been serviced, many of those students have been our most vulnerable students, clearly. And aside from vulnerability by race and ethnicity, they've also identified as vulnerable by way of self-identifying as a part of the LGBTQIA population. So I thought that was pretty important to mention. In addition to the mental health support services that has been provided through the counseling center, is that resources have been gathered and placed on our COVID-19 information page and through social media platforms. In terms of housing for students who consider Lewis their primary home, as mentioned multiple times, Fred, who serves as the Director of Residence Life, in terms of our mission and our institution, we didn't completely shut down in that more than about 90 or so students were offered an opportunity to reside on campus. And not only did they get provided shelter, but as Kurt mentioned, the food pantry is made available, and meals were made available to those students. And I want to also add, of those 90 students, 45 students were international students.
So, Kristi, could I just pause for a moment there? I think, a couple things that you're saying, again, all of this feels very connected, which is why we wanted to have both of you on today. But I think it's important for our community to understand that the university, throughout this whole thing, when we talk about coming back in the fall, we have had nearly 100 students on campus since the virus happened. There's a whole host of vulnerabilities that they've faced. All the things you're talking about. I mean, anxiety, certainly all of us have more anxiety in this climate. But we've been servicing not only the 90 students that have been on campus, whether it's food pantry issues or counseling services or health services, but also serving the other 6,200 students that are a part of the Lewis community. And so as we begin to invite people back to campus, we will be inviting people back to campus into a climate where we've had 90 students on campus. And I think I'm right in this, Chris, that none of those 90 students have had COVID.
Correct.
So, yes. I just want to kind of say that 900 students versus 90 students is different. I don't want to deny that. But I also want to say that they've been receiving food. They've been walking around campus. Our employees have been on campus. Not all of our employees. Many of our employees work remotely. But because I don't want to minimize the change that'll happen in September. Mm-hmm. I also don't want people to think that there's been nobody on this campus for the last 4 months, because students have continued to be served in many ways, and we've been able to keep people safe from COVID, because we really work hard at wearing face coverings, keeping social distances, cleaning different facilities that are used, all those kinds of things. And so I really appreciate that information, Kristi. And I know you have more information. I just wanted to stop there and pause and offer a few comments.
And I think it's a wonderful lead-in to the final bullet point under this, the second category, student involvement and really being intentional about creating a sense of belonging and community. So to your point, Dave, we have, of course, done flyer to flyer, which, again, many offices have been involved, faculty and staff. We also offered Zoom rooms, is what we call them to some degree, where on a weekly basis, there were offices that made themselves available to students to just do what I would call a wellness check, or to say, how are you doing? And responsiveness to those calls or Zoom rooms in that time that was allotted really made students, and not only students, parents, feel good. Over the summer, we've also had open forums that have really generated conversation and hopefully some action that will take place over the course of the academic year. And really, we've been, as you said earlier, Dave, we've been in listening mode in order to better understand where people are in their mindset and how we can better service our students and colleagues across campus. And so in addition to the Zoom rooms and the forums, just yesterday we had a virtual paint party, United in Diversity, right? Where students and staff got online and listened to music, and we painted Betcheck Charlie, right? So And we're planning right now a virtual 5K where not only our campus community is invited, but we're also extending this invitation to external campus partners and friends of the university to get online in August to either walk, run, or sit and be a part of an initiative that really is homing in on supporting our most vulnerable students and even supporting a group, a nonprofit organization that we've adopted off campus.
I'm looking forward to the 5K, Kristi. I'm planning on running it.
And I know we didn't. You're not planning on sitting it?
No, I'm going to run it.
I'm still.
I'm going to jog it. I don't really run anymore. I'm too
kind
old
of
to run.
stuck on how you can move 5K while sitting, but. And I know we didn't ask for this, John, in the booth, but if there's any way to find out how people, if we can maybe by the end post how people can sign up for it.
Yeah, register for that. And the other,
that would be great.
Yeah, the other, I know if you go to the athletics site, there's our golf fundraiser is next Friday. So there's still a lot. I mean, to your point, Kristi, whether it's painting or 5Ks, there's a lot still going on. But yeah, if we could get that 5K registration page up, that would be great.
Did we cut you off, Kristi?
No, I'm glad you went right to registration because that was all I was going to say about that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And then I think we just have one more thing we want to list that was there. The expression inclusive pedagogy. At Lewis for many years, and increasingly over the last few years, we've been building resources and peer support for inclusive approaches to the classroom. And what we mean by that is often taking classroom approaches that recognize different learning styles of students, different ways of students to contribute or to make an impact in the classroom discussions or in the classroom learning of their peers and the professor, and a deeper awareness of the impact of classroom dynamics on learning, and a general approach that student diversity in the classroom is an asset to the learning environment. And we've been, as I said, we've been providing resources around that for a few years and in intensifying those supports. But what we're really mentioning today, or including today, is the concept that we're just very aware that the online classroom environment raises new issues and brings new challenges to professors. And we have many professors who are deeply experienced with online education, but for those who are newer to the online experience, we're providing a lot of resources over the spring as well as over the summer in preparation for the fall around using some of those techniques that might be unique to the online environment, and providing more. We're providing general support for professors through the summer through a series called Teaching Tuesdays. And I just want to draw people's attention to, we've already done a few of those already, and they're going great, and many more are planned over the next several weeks. One on August 4th by Professor Elizabeth Sturm is particularly focused on building inclusive communities in online environments and bringing out the best of our students through the online teaching. So we're really grateful to Liz for that, and I know our professors are really engaged in this topic generally, and there's a lot of wisdom among our faculty around this already, and it's being shared in great ways. So that's all I think we wanted to say in terms of kind of generally describing our approach to these topics, and so now we can just sort of talk among the four of us. And
yeah, so one of the things that I would like to do is, and Kurt, you might be the person, I mean maybe several of you, because I know you've been engaged in different aspects of this, but from the very local to the very global, I guess I'd like to talk a little bit about another part of our community that we haven't mentioned yet, and I apologize for that because I've been going through that, though they fall into all these categories, are the Christian Brothers. So how the Christian Brothers are doing this summer with the virus, being on campus, because not only do we have our 90 students and our employees that come here, but we have the community of Christian Brothers that live on campus. And then I know both of you have been involved in international issues around the the global Lasallian network. So, Kurt, I know you're often engaged with the Christian Brothers, so maybe you could speak to how they're doing. I mean, I have been in conversation with Brother James a couple times over the summer, but how are we doing locally with the Christian Brothers, and then what's going on globally?
Yeah, the brothers are doing great. Right from the very beginning, I've stayed in contact with Brother James, who's the director of the community, and we've kind of focused on two goals. One is to make sure that the university is supporting the brothers as much as we can in their own needs, but then also the brothers are doing a great job of supporting the Office of Mission and Identity and helping to be present to our community in virtual ways. And so back in the spring, the brothers were contributing prayers to the community. Brother Phil Johnson led a special prayer for our graduates. As a community, the brothers contributed a couple of videos that were used in a number of different ways on campus. And so I think the pandemic has really impacted brothers communities around the world. They've had to rethink what it means to live in community and to think about how they can continue to support ministries and provide inspiration and encouragement in new ways. And I've been part of a number of calls and gatherings, virtual gatherings over the summer with brothers from around the country. And there's a very optimistic attitude that the brothers have. And I think they also feel very proud that their ministries are managing through this situation really, really well. And what we're seeing around the country and around the world is what one would expect in the Lasallian network, which is people coming together to solve problems using creativity that's kind of inspired by a sense of faithfulness and hopefulness. On an international level, a COVID-19 worldwide fundraiser was established that to date has raised over $250,000 to support ministries that are in fragile or vulnerable parts of the world. And then there's also this real sense, both in the United States and worldwide, that we really need to stick together. So it's that spirit of association that I think really animates the movement. We introduced this concept on campus in the spring, Indivisa Manent, and essentially it means although we are separated, we are permanently indivisible. We are united together. And I think that's a great way to think about all 1 million of our students scattered across the globe in any number of ministries, over 1,000 ministries, who continue to stay connected in virtual ways and to support each other during times like this. So the global response has been really inspiring. And I think the commitment to virtual professional development and virtual formation, virtual prayer, virtual accompaniment of students is really robust. And so, you know, obviously we would all like for things to go back to normal, but I think it's fair to say that many ministries and brothers and Lasallians in general are really thriving in this moment and making the most of what's a difficult situation.
Kurt, can you say that Latin phrase one more time for those of us who are not used to hearing it orally? Indivisa
Manent.
Manent.
Mm-hmm. So, Kurt, we did have a couple questions came in that are around this general topic that you've been mentioning. One is about whether we'll be holding Mass on campus this fall. And the second one is around whether students involved in ministry that are very used to doing service projects will continue to be able to do service projects in the community. And maybe you could even go into this. I don't know if we have answers to these kind of things, but I know there's, been retreats in the past, and I don't know if, so there's a whole host of, some of the stuff Kristi was talking about. How do we bridge and build community during these times? And I think you're mentioning that, but now I think you've probably stirred some questions in people, and they're saying, oh yeah, that's great. Now, can I go to Mass, and can I go do my service project that I did at the homeless shelter, and those kind of things?
Yeah, those are great questions. So we will continue to offer Mass in the fall. We fall under the kind of the jurisdiction of the Diocese of Joliet, so we're working closely with the diocese to develop a plan for Mass. We're required to put a plan together, and so we're working on that right now. We do, as we typically do during Welcome Week, we have a Mass on the Grass, the University Green planned, and we're going to try to, as much as possible, have in-person liturgy. We'll have to be careful in terms of numbers of people and social distancing, but that's all part of the plan that we're developing.
Great.
University ministry staff has been working a lot over the summer, though, on kind of recalibrating a number of their programs to modify them and make them work for the upcoming semester. And so, in addition to retreats and other kinds of experiences, they're also doing some kind of innovative work and thinking about new ways that we can engage students in a virtual format or in hybrid format. There's a whole kind of committee of the university that's working on experiential learning opportunities, and I think that's a future topic for one of these conversations from Stritch. But we'll take the lead from them in terms of service experiences, because we have to collaborate with our community partners and the kinds of restrictions and the kinds of goals that they have in place in terms of how our students will interact with our partners in terms of service experiences and other kinds of off-campus activities. And so that kind of planning is being done right now, and we're continuing to explore and adapt to the changes that need to be made.
And just to repeat that advertisement for future weeks, I don't think we have a date planned for it yet, but we are planning a Thursdays from Stritch episode all about our community partners, community engaged learning placements, our professional placements and clinical placements, and for nursing students and teaching students and social work and so on. And so we will, and I don't, Kurt just explained it wonderfully around, it really is about, we plan to do those things, and it's about our partners and what their ability is to deliver the services that they're delivering in order for our students to be able to engage in them. But it's a big topic, and it's a little bit more settled than it was in April, but it's something we will focus a whole hour on.
And because it's an evolving situation, it might be a little closer to the start of the year.
Yes.
I mean, we have 5 weeks left before classes start. My guess is that community engaged learning, community partnerships, all that stuff, because their world is changing. The Easter Seals or the food pantry, they're still trying to work through their stuff. And so we have some great people that work on that, and really excited to hopefully, allow students to be as engaged as possible with the community, because the community needs things, and we are, our students are amazing in their desire to go out and help the community, to serve the community. So as we can be a place to match up that desire to serve with the needs of the community, we'll do that in, again, a healthy and safe way. Other comments you have, Chris, or questions that you have for Kristi or Kurt?
Yeah, I mean, Kristi, I guess I'd like to maybe ask you to reflect. I'm not sure how to ask this question exactly, but you were with President Livingston, I don't know how many weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, something like that. And, we, as a community, just made a commitment to learn and address issues of structural racism on our campus, as well as learn about it in our students' lives and in our communities. And I know that is a very short amount of time in relationship to a massive challenge, but I'm just wondering kind of what you're hearing, how we've been listening. I know we're reticent to talk about planning things when, until we have concrete action in place to share. And I know we'll do a lot more about of that around convocation and going into the fall semester, but I'm just kind of curious how you're tracking it so far.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. So in terms of what I'm hearing, there is a thirst and or a hunger amongst our colleagues in particular, not to the exclusion of students, but amongst our colleagues in particular, a desire, and I'm going to try to phrase this as best as I can, to learn how to, with as much positive intention as possible, to interact with people who don't look like them. And so this data, if you will, or feedback has come in through personal contact with me through some of our public forums that we've had. They want to better understand or learn how to engage with our colleagues in particular that are of a variety of ethnic and racial backgrounds, because they don't know how. And I'm paraphrasing, but for the most part, that has been a theme since my conversation from Stritch with Dave. And so I think out of that comes some planning, and that's providing platforms and venues to continue to have these conversations and to not be prescriptive, but give some thought and insight and guidance on how to be what we would say culturally competent or culturally sensitive. So that's my initial response, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. And I know both of us here in this room talk a lot about how important the ability of groups to talk to each other really is. And I think what you're hearing and pointing out in our communities, pointing out to us, is that engaging in dialogue across difference requires a set of skills that that are unique and challenging sometimes. And I find it very encouraging that our members of our community are saying things like, I have difficulty with this, I want help with this, I want to engage across difference, but I feel nervous about it, or something like that. And so, we can provide those, some help with that, and we all need help with that, increasingly over time. And so I find that very exciting.
Yeah, and I must say that I found, so we just wrapped up, yesterday Kristi was involved with the President's Book Club, and we read The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin and Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me, and it was a diverse group, and so people did have to talk across those lines about very difficult and challenging issues that are raised by these two authors, very painful experiences that both authors faced. And so the colleagues that were interacting with each other, were, I guess what I would say is, practicing those skills that you're pointing out. And we will try to create multiple opportunities for both our students and our colleagues to practice these skills, interacting with each other. And that is part of what Kristi's role is. But it's really all of us in leadership and management across the university, all of the faculty, all those people that manage student workers, all of those opportunities where you can find ways in which you put people in an environment and talk about substantial things across cultural barriers. I think there's just real value to that. So we'll continue to work on that.
I know we're getting a little short on time, but we had a question come through I think would be great to talk about. And Kurt and Kristi can both reflect on this, but maybe Kristi, you could start. The question is essentially for students who are new to Lewis, going into the fall semester, how are they invited into the community and being able to engage, or how can we make them feel comfortable doing things like the art, the painting thing, or and just by coincidence today is a new student undergraduate student orientation, and I know we have things scheduled for them all through the semester, but I'd love to hear both of you reflect just sort of more generally about how to bring people into the community during these conditions.
Excellent question, and I'm actually glad it came through. So, and I'm going to refer back to yesterday's event. We had a new student to actually participate in the virtual paint party, so that was exciting. Mary DeGraw and I were really excited about that. And but generally speaking, there are open houses that are happening throughout the summer, where a variety of offices are making themselves available virtually, of course, to do a question answer session where students who are in their first year or new transferring in can learn more about that particular area and get as much information as can be provided. So that's a way to invite that new student to become familiar with what's happening on campus.
Yeah, and I would add to that a real kind of energy and enthusiasm that's being exhibited by our student success and student support staff, who in these virtual orientation programs and other kinds of interactions with the students are really reaching out to them to let them know how much we want to support them, how much we're committed to their success, how open we are to communicating with them in any way that works best for them. And making sure that they know that in the spirit of our mission, we're very much accompanying them on this college journey. And although in many ways we're not able to physically walk side by side with them, and if we are, we're doing it 6 feet apart, we're virtually with them. We're letting them know that we're here to support them, that we want to answer all their questions, that we want to help them solve problems and dilemmas, and we really want to be present to them as much as possible, because it's that one-on-one support over the phone or via email or text that our faculty and staff are really known for, especially in these last couple of months.
Yeah, that's great. And we really do want people to hear, and I think you're hearing it from all of us, I hope, that we want all the people who are new to the community, again, new graduate students, new first-year students that are coming directly out of high school or transferring from one of our partner community colleges, to feel welcome and a member of the community. We do want to walk with you in this educational journey. You're joining an academic community. You're coming into a space, and it may feel more uncomfortable when you're coming into it in a more virtual way. It won't be completely virtual, but in a more virtual way than would be traditional. Yeah, so we're wrapping up, Chris. I mean, other comments, last comments from either, usually we offer to the guests first, so any last little tidbit that you want to leave with those people that are sharing this with us, or we'll watch it tonight or tomorrow. Thoughts that you have, Kristi?
Really quickly, we're trying to be creative and flexible and excitable all at the same time. And we just welcome an opportunity to engage with students. And I think Kurt just said it best. If it's not through the virtual platform, it's by phone call, right? And so I would just welcome any student, first year transfer, and faculty staff, if there's an opportunity to engage with me, to share some thoughts on how to better serve, I'm open to that.
Great. Thank you, Kristi. Kurt?
I would add that, in a couple of weeks, our Welcome Week activities will provide all kinds of great opportunities for our newest students to be introduced to all aspects of the university. And so that's going to be a great time for them. It'll be different than in the past, but it's going to be a great time for them. And then the last thing I would say is that, and I think all three of you would agree with me, and I know there are others would probably as well, that I'm really proud of the way the faculty and staff stepped up in this transition and really lived the mission in ways that we have not seen before and ways that we have seen before. They've just done a phenomenal job of putting the students at the center of everything they do. And I think it's a testament to all of the great work that those people have invested in their own understanding of the mission and their willingness to really learn more about it and figure out ways that they can impact students' lives in really important ways. So I think things have gone really, really well, and I'm really proud of what everyone's been able to do in these last few months.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, and Kurt really stole my thunder there, because I'm so much thinking about expressing gratitude, certainly to Kurt and Kristi and the many people who are working in the areas they just described with them, as well, all of the people working on today's orientation, just as an example, and then absolutely the faculty who are being extraordinarily patient, creative, tenacious with their work and preparation and adjusting to everything from the schedule to the classroom to the technologies that we're using, and then finally to students who are preparing and taking advantage of these resources. And I guess I would just say to students, please take advantage of these resources, because they're really going to help. So.
That's great.
Oh, I have to say one more thing.
Please.
We are prepared with that graphic for the 5K.
Yeah, we are.
So we got to show that before.
There we go. So the virtual 5K, and we're excited that it's going to support, some really important, work that we're doing on campus. But you have, I think, a week. I can't read because it's too small print.
Yeah.
But I think you have a week to run, walk, sit your 5K. So my last comments, I will echo what has already been said, but just try to restate it. Our inspiration lies in the Lasallian tradition. So for 300 years, the brothers and their partners in their ministry have gone through amazing things, very difficult things, very exciting things. I've been really inspired, and I'm incredibly grateful to all of the people that I work with here at Lewis that partner with me in delivering this mission for our students. Because what has come out of this, many people can be confronted with turmoil and uncertainty and frustration and difference in the way that their lives ran, and really approach it with anger and complaint. And what we've had in our community is an approach and a response that has been, much more about how can I help, and aren't we fortunate to be working with such great colleagues. I mean, you hear that from us, but it's not just us that are saying it. It's all sorts of other people that are saying about each other. I'm just so amazed by the way in which these people have been creative about a response and have, met the challenge of, figuring out how to put 2,200 classes into this new environment, or how do we procure all the masks and all the face shields and all the whatever that we need. We can't name all the names, but the current brothers that live in our community, the brothers around the world, and certainly John Baptist de La Salle and his early brothers have inspired us to continue to live the mission, and we have responded really well, and we'll continue to care for you. This today is about community, and as you join our community or come back to our community, we're here for you, we care for you, and we will keep your safety in mind. So have a great week. We'll see you next week. Actually, I won't be here next week because I'm taking a little vacation, but we will see you in the future, and grateful for your attendance today. Enjoy the day.